Hello everyone. In this lecture, we will be covering advanced UI interaction using Cypress and some challenges while we are using Cypress and how we can handle them. So getting started, we will learn what is iframe and how to handle the iframes, how to handle multiple tabs, what we mean by the multiple tabs, like imagine that on your single browser like have a multiple tabs and how to interact with them, and how to handle the alerts and what is alerts and how to handle them, some advanced mouse actions like hovering over the element and etc., and how to download the file and how to upload file. So first let's start with what is iframe. So iframe, it is also called inline frame, is an HTML element used to embedding another HTML document within the current page. So what we mean by that is basically if you go to our front end page, you will see a iframes card in here. So if you click on that and if you check the DOM content of this iframe page, you will see the DOM content is a little bit different than usual what you used to see. So if you hover over and check this portion, you will see this portion is embedded inside the other iframe. So from your HTML CSS classes, as you can remember, this is whole HTML DOM, right, with its body. But sometimes, as a developer, we might need to embed some content. This could be some ads, maybe some other web page, and etc. We want to embed another content inside our uh, inside our like DOM content. So in this case, we are using iframes, and it's pretty common in the web development. So you will see there is an iframe, you will see a web element with the iframe inside your DOM content. Okay, so this is actually another DOM, just like with whole DOM content. Imagine that, and just this much of DOM content is embedded inside of this one with all of these contents. You can see like doc type and etc. Like I'm sure you guys remember it from the HTML classes, is embedded inside of this one. And in some cases, we need to interact with this information that is embedded inside our web page. So we will learn how to do that because it is not uh, normally like you cannot just interact with your iframe directly, just like you're interacting with any web element you see on your page. So we will see how to do that. So as we mentioned in here, they're commonly used to embed specific content like external ads, videos, tags, or other interactive elements into the page. So think of it as a window or a box on a web page where you can view another web page that is created by using iframe web tag. So the primary reasons, as we mentioned before, to use iframes, like embedding some content inside of that, it could be anything that you can see in here, like sandboxing, for example. Like since the content inside the iframe, it's going to be isolated from the main content, so it's also a measure of security at the same time for the web development. So if you think for about that, so these ads, like as we mentioned before, are often delivered in iframes, so they cannot access our main page content and the other resources. So this is also a security issue too. So the loading page with the loading page within the page. So if you want to show a full web page, let's say, I mean, imagine your the practices that you do from the JavaScript practice from our website, right? It's another page that we embed our website. So if you want to show a full web page or a part of a web page inside another without directing users to a new tab or link, iframes can be used. Just like we did in here. For example, we can just go to our JavaScript exercises, and you will see these are also embedded inside the iframes. If I just click on that, you will see this content inside here is actually also embedded inside the iframe. You will see directly in here. So we are providing you a different page in our web page. So let's go back to our front-end testing and iframes because this is where we will practice. So let's see how to handle them. So Cypress has some difficulties working with the iframes, primarily because for all built-in Cypress DOM traversal command. So what we mean by that is basically whenever Cypress interacts with the iframe, it stops the operation, and it's not getting it as a usual DOM element, and it's just interrupts the flow. So we have to find a way to interact with this document. So however, to overcome this issue, there is an efficient workaround. That's what we will do. So we are going to get the property of that iframe web element. So from that, after getting this property, we will be interacting this all the content of the web element. So let's see how to we do. So basically, we are going to use this content document. So what is this content document? Let's understand it. So content document is a property of the HTML iframe element. So it is inbuilt property. So when you have an iframe on the page, it is essentially embeds another web page within the current page. So this embedded web page has its own document object that represents its content. So it is separate from the document object of the parent page. So the content document property provides a way to access this embedded document object. Since it's a property, once you have an access to the content document, you can manipulate the content of the embedded page just as you would within the main page. So we will using this syntax. So it is basically a method in the Cypress that is helping us to interact with the property of the web element. So this 0.content_document.body. Well, this 0 basically refers to first, and if there's a one iframe, for example, like there's a single iframe, or let's say there's a multiple one, but you want to interact with the first one, and it's typically a DOM element from the set of elements wrapped inside the Cypress. The content document, as we said, it gets the document object of the iframe's content from its property, and the body is basically it's just references to body of that iframe. So which is just, you can imagine, like this is the, for example, body of the web element, right? But for this one, it has its own body too, right? If we check that, if we go inside, this form also has its own body. So this is also the body of this iframe web element. So you will see this HTML, right? The iframe and the HTML, then the header where we provide like this the meta information, then the body. So we are just interacting with this one because this is what we need. So how to do that? So we will be doing it by using this its method. So in Cypress, this its method is used to access the properties of any web element, okay? But of course it needs to be subject to a web element, right? So here the term subject, what we mean by the subject is basically it refers to the element or object currently being acted upon in the Cypress chain, as we mentioned before. So if we just take from the real world analogy, so imagine you have a car, and this car has like some properties like its color, brand, model, and etc. So these are the properties of the car, right? So if you want to specifically know the color of the car, you will get the color property. So you will ask the car, for example, that what is your color? Well, this is what we will do. Like, what is your property? We will ask that web element. Then we will get that document property. So web elements, specifically those in an HTML document, can have a multiple of properties. These properties can be broadly categorized as follows. This is some kind of table I have created to you, that what kind of properties that one web element can have. For example, this ID, class name that we see before these attributes can be like properties. Like content properties, what we mean by that, like it text, like inner text, outer text, and its content document. And even the CSS is its properties, like its color, its height, and etc. So these are the properties. So let's see an example how to do that. So first we have to find that iframe web element. So first let's go and create a new JavaScript file, and let's call it 05 under advanced, let's say advanced topic.cy.js. Let's create this describe block. missing something? No. And let's call our individual test block too, and let's name it iframes. So first what we need to do is you need to locate your iframe. So if you have an ID, it's perfect, which we have ID already. You see it's a form frame. So we can directly use this form frame to interact with our iframe. So we will need to do is get then pound key form frame. Right now we targeted this form frame and we want to get the property of this form frame. So that's why we will be using this its. So by using this one, basically we are telling that an iframe that we want to get which property that we need. By the way, it should be its. So in this case we need the property of the first one, and it's going to be this content document and the body of it. Dot body. Then first we want to make sure that this body is not empty. This is not must, but this is some kind of giving you an extra validation and assertion before you do your action, because if your content didn't load the body, then you can just fail it directly. So what you can do is basically you can just say should have, should not be empty. Not be empty. So by the way, like there, as I say, there are like almost 200, 300 assertions. You might not remember all of them, but you can just, from the chainers, you can just check by the comments. So first, after we validate that, then we can directly interact with this one. But of course, what we missed of course to go into our web page. Let's also not miss that. This is how we start the tests. And this time we will be going to click this iframe. Click. So now we also make sure we are inside the iframe in here, and we make sure that the empty iframe is not empty. And since we know that these are inside the these are inside the iframe, right? This content what we have in here inside the iframe. So I want to send keys to name and the last name. So right now, since I'm inside the iframe, there will be no problem to interact this web element. So let's say I want to interact with these inputs. So what are these? I have what? I have input in here, which I want to send text, which is first name, and also I guess it should be the last name. So what I can do from here, I can just say find, right? So from the find, I can just provide my ID for the first name, and I can just say type, then let's say username, and also after that, for example, you can also make sure that it's visible too, but it's not necessary right now. And let's see how we're gonna send text to this one. I will just say this one, and I will just going to initialize my test runner, and let's see if it works. Let's close this one. As you can see, we are able to send the text inside of this one. So since we're gonna interact with a different object right now, by the way, let's also see that, like, what if we do this? See why, like, directly without interacting the iframe, right? What if we did like this? What will happen? Let's see this one first. Without handling the iframe, I'm gonna try to send the text, and let's see what will happen. As you can see, Cypress engine is not able to find it. It's telling us but never find it. But it is there. It's pretty much there. But it cannot find because it just stops working, interrupting its work whenever it interacts with something with the iframe. So it doesn't even see that. That's why we always should need to contact with iframe. Now, since we will yield another object which is the last name, let's say, if I want to click the last name, I'm just gonna do last name, because this is the ID of that last name input. I will save it. Didn't we write something? Yep, it's working as it's expected. And the problem is like, since some old frameworks are based on their driver, we have to always switch our driver to iframe. And whenever we switch our drive frame, then our driver focus will be on the iframe, and we will not be able to interact with the elements and the main body again. So in Cypress we don't have any concern because this session only persists for this subject and also for this one too. And if you see, this web element is not inside the submit button is not inside the iframe. You see, iframe is only here, but this submit is outside the iframe. So you don't need to go outside the iframe again because this session only persists for this block of code. Your driver is already gonna be switched back to body again right away. You don't need to do anything. On the old frameworks, old kind of frameworks like Selenium and more, you have to switch back to your driver to main content. But on the Cypress, you don't need to do. So if you want to again interact with something out of iframe, you can just take this one, then button dot click. Are we missing something? Oh, it's submit. Right. Let's see what's the issue in here. cy.get submit dot click. I think this submit button is inside the iframe too. I'm not sure. Oh yeah, I'm sorry, it's my bad. The submit button is also inside the iframe, so we need to do the same action again. So what we need to do is we need to interact with the iframe. So cy.get pound key form frame. It's I will not say should not be empty because we know that it's at first it's working as fine. Then I will just say submit dot click. Yep, it's working as expected. And let's say we also want to validate, because I know that this is out of the iframe. I'll just put random. This is out of the iframe. I just want to validate this result is visible. So again, as I mentioned you before, I don't need to switch my driver and etc. Whenever I say cy.get result, for example, should be visible, it will work as it's expected. You see, this is out of iframe. We can just see in here too. This is all iframe. This covering all the content. what this result is out of it. You see, guys, if for example, where's the iframe? You see it's in the same level on the iframe inside the div. So we don't need to switch our driver at all. It's directly interacting with that web element. Well, this is how we are interacting with the iframe. So the multiple tabs. So this is some kind of a little bit tricky and really interesting way of dealing in Cypress. But for the Cypress, if you read the documentation, Cypress says it's unnecessary to validate the elements in the new tab, or validate there is a new tab or not. So Cypress finds it very unnecessary. This is kind of interesting, to be honest. They think that this is not something that should be tested, but to be honest, in the industry it's pretty common. So basically, Cypress does not natively support testing action, and this is, by the way, something that Cypress telling that they will never going to support this one. So anyway, natively support testing action that lead to new browser tabs or windows. So the reason being, Cypress was designed to operate within a single tab and assumes a single window context for its commands. This helps keep the testing experience fast, reliable, and predictable. When verifying that a link opens a new browser tab, developers typically use the target blank. So what I mean by that, basically, when we are going to create a, let's say, not tables, and let's say I'm going to click link, right, and that link is going to open a new tab. We are just providing an attribute. Maybe you can remember from HTML classes with this attribute. So whenever we provide this attribute with target underscore blank, this element opens the link in a different tab. So if I, for example, if I just leave this one blank, and if I just remove this, right now, whenever I click this apple, it's going to open this apple in the same web page. You will see right now, you see it's not directing me to another page. But before, right now my target might be back. It's not, let's just refresh. So right now, as you can see, this target blank is back. So when I click the apple, it will just protect the original content, original page. It will not going to navigate to our from the original page. It's gonna instead open that one in the new tab. So this is how we can validate it. For example, validate that if the element is opens in a new tab or not by this target underscore target attribute has an underscore blank. So as I say, Cypress finds it a little bit unnecessary to deal with this. So when we are verifying that link open a new browser or a tab, so as you saw, we are using that underscore blank value for the target attribute. So in Cypress, you can check this behavior by accessing the presence of the value of the target attribute. But the command below that we gave in here basically helping you to validate that. So what I mean by that, so if you want to validate, let's create another if block. Let's say multiple tabs. So if I want to validate that Apple link as a target attribute, you saw actually we have done it before. So I can just get this ID Apple, and I can just say why.get ID, sorry, Apple. Then should, I can just say have attribute, and I can just say it should have target, and the value of it should be underscore blank. So if I'm getting these values from this web element, it means it's already going to open a new page. Let's just run the test and see. Sorry, this should be multiple windows. Yep, we already validate that this web element has this attribute with the value of blank. So as I say, Cypress has really interesting way of dealing with this issue, because as also we read from documentation that Cypress works in a single browser, single tab, and this is how making their tests really reliable and fast. And that's why they are not providing a direct support on the multiple tabs, and also they just don't find it really necessary. But there's a workaround of this one. So what is that? So one of the most powerful thing about Cypress is giving us an opportunity to manipulate the DOM just like we did. So what I mean by that, so what we did, we just go there and we just remove this blank and press enter, right? So temporarily, we just manipulate this one. Right now, when I click on Apple, it's not going to open in the new tab. It will just navigate from my existing tab, right? As you can see. So Cypress is giving us a chance to do that too, which is really cool thing actually. So, but we will need to use the jQuery again. So let's go to a different tab. So however, if your application opens a new tab upon some action, like clicking a link, just with it, and if you need to interact with that web page, there are some workarounds we can use. So we will talk about these workarounds that we just mentioned. If the target attribute has a value blank, it opens a new tab. This is 100% we are agree on that. So Cypress uses the jQuery method, which is the remove attribute, which is invoked by the invoke as we used before. You guys remember from the invoke method that is coming from jQuery bundled inside the Cypress. So providing this remove attribute deletes the attribute of deletes the value of any attribute, or just completely removes the attribute. So when I do this, I call my invoke, and when I say remove attribute, by the way, it doesn't suggest you can just remove everything. And if you need help while you're writing your commands, remove attribute, and if I say target, Cypress is going to remove this attribute. So you know what will happen when this remove attribute, like this target attribute is removed? This tab is going to open in the same browser. I'm sorry, same tab, not on a different tab, just like in here. And in a different tab, it will open in the same tab. It does just like we did in here. It just temporarily manipulates the existing attribute of the web element. So it's just protecting its test in the single browser, single tab. Then from here, what we can do is basically after you are on the new page, let's say we will be on the Apple, right? So I will remove this right now. Do I have an action? No. I'm just removing the attribute target of this web element. So I can just say click, and let's see what happens. You see, we clicked Apple and we're on the same page. Let's see what happens if we are doing without this one. Let's say I will do my click. I didn't remove the attribute. You see, it opened the task in a new tab. But if you want to, let's say, validate the URL, I want to say URL should equal to Apple. We can't even see anything, right? We just lost our test runner. You don't even see anything. You see? It's failing already. So the reason that Cypress cannot jump into another tab. So what we need to do is basically, after we handle this, we can just remove this action in here. After we handle this and manipulate this target attribute, then we can easily validate the title of the web page. As you can see, we are there. It shouldn't be equal, it should be contain, because equal means it should be like 100% equal. So we can just check with the contains. Okay, I think like we are having an issue on the maybe like Apple page. So I found the issue there. The issue is basically when we are interacting with the different page, it could be by directing to some different page from your original page, or maybe interacting with some another web application via iframe. Since Cypress always works and focuses on the single browser, there is some policy that you need to disable, and Cypress is giving you this option. So basically, there is a cross-origin policy restrictions. It's based on the Chrome, and by disabling it, it will allow us to interact with the directed page's web application. So how we will do it is basically you can go to that cypress.config.js, and from here you can just provide this option. So let's just do it together. So by just writing, it will suggest you Chrome Web Security. Then by setting this to false, it's going to disable this option. But you have to make sure that and remember that when you change something on this option from the cypress.config.js, make sure that your test runner is closed. Because if you do these settings or changes while your test runner is open, it will most likely going to fail again. So make sure that you close your test runner and do these settings. By the way, if you want, you can also change the viewport width and viewport height of your browser. What this means is basically, while we were running our tests, if you check the before lectures, you will see that the resolution of our tests was, smaller than what we usually see on the web browser. So from these options, you can actually increase this option. So this is the one, for example, a classic like 180p resolution, right? You can make it like 2K, you can make it 4K. It depends on your monitor resolution or depend on the requirements that you get on the company. So from here, you can also change the settings if you want, but this is not necessary. But to work around this issue that we have to interacting with the another web application from our original test, you have to make sure that you set this Chrome Web Security to false. So after you change this option, just save it and go back to our tests. So I changed the value in here. I made it Tesla. You can just take it to Apple. It will still work. So I'm going to open Cypress app again. So let's see now if it's working. Yep, on our second test right now, it works, it's expected, and we are validating this includes Tesla. If you also want to make sure that this web page, because before when I was debugging it, I mentioned that this comes as an object because it cannot interact and it cannot bypass the Chrome origin security restriction. But right now, since we can bypass, we are getting properly. So if you want to make sure that, what you can do is basically by using this then we can get it from the window as a JavaScript object. So we can just do cy.url, then we can just call our then, and let's say URL, and by here we can just make sure and let's say cy.log URL. Let's see if we are getting the correct URL for debugging purposes. Yep, as you can see, we are logging the Tesla URL. So this is how we are interacting with the different pages that is opening in a new tab. As we mentioned before, if we recap, Cypress is not directly supporting us to interact with the multiple tabs, and that's why what we are doing in here, first we are validating that this link is opens in a new tab. So as we mentioned before in this class, if the web element that is works as a link has a target attribute that's value is underscore blank, it means that page that is going to direct us to different page is going to open in a new tab. So by here we can validate that this tab opens in the new, this link opens in a new tab. So as we said, since Cypress is lack of interacting with the different tabs, so what we are doing is we are basically manipulating the web element by using this jQuery method, which is invoke, which takes an argument and argument is this method. These are maybe like some kind that could really look weird to you, but this is how Cypress interacts since because of its jQuery interaction. But the thing isn't in here. We are providing that this attribute. We can just see what kind of methods it's giving us by just clicking this, right? Whenever I click, it's going to give us everything that we can do with this jQuery methods. But what we need is the remove attribute one, right? Then which attribute we want to remove? Then we want to remove target. Then whenever we remove this target, then whenever we click on this link will not going to open in the different tab anymore. It will no longer going to open a new tab. Instead, it's going to direct us from our existing tab. So with this workaround, the Cypress will work as it's expected because there will be no interaction with a different tab. Then from here, as I said, we have to make sure that we are disabled this Chrome Web Security to bypass this cross-origin security policy and the restrictions. Well, that's why we are just providing this option in here and setting it to false. Then from here, what we are doing is basically we are validating something from different web application. So this is how Cypress handles different tabs. So alerts. So these alerts, these are like window alerts are pop-up notifications created by a browser to inform or warn a user about specific event or action. Most probably during your experience while you are hanging on any web application on the internet, you might see these errors or these pop-ups a lot. So these errors are invoked in JavaScript using alert method. So when an alert is triggered, it typically freezes the browser main thread, preventing any other interaction until the user acknowledges the alert by pressing an OK button. So what I mean by that, let's go to our web application and let's go to our alerts page. So in this alert page, we have like 3 alerts in here, okay? So let's say I will click this warning alert, which will pop up a warning alert in our web page. So right now, whenever you get this alert, which is just coming from JavaScript, you cannot interact with anything other than this is browser, by the way, in the page. Whenever I click, I cannot click previous button, I cannot click this button. It will not allow me to interact in anything in the page. And these are not coming from the HTML DOM. These are not something that you can locate. It's even like preventing me to locate something in the browser. So this is not something implemented by the HTML. This is implemented directly by JavaScript. And whenever we come across with an alert, basically it will stop and prevent our tests. So Cypress has some kind of mechanism. Whenever you click this, the Cypress mechanism will automatically click OK. So this is how the Cypress handles. You don't need to write anything extra if you're just gonna handle an OK alert. So whenever Cypress just come across with any alert that needs to be just click OK, then Cypress is going to just click on that without doing anything. Well, this is something really easy to bypass for the Cypress. But this is not the only alert type. So there are 3 types of alert, as you can see in here. One, the warning alert, another one, confirmation alert, and the third one, prompt alert. So let's see and understand what are these. So warning alert is just an alert, and just as the other alerts, it prevents you to do any action on the browser, but it has the only one option, which is clicking the OK. So if I click, there is no option other than OK. So if I just click on OK, this alert will gone. And also in our application, you will see this message. You accepted warning by clicking OK. Then there is a second type of alert in the Cypress. In the JavaScript, which is confirmation alert. So when you click on confirmation alert, this time you will see OK, and at the same time you will see cancel options that you can select. So while warning alert is just giving us only an OK option, confirmation alert giving us an option to click OK or cancel. So whatever you do, it will still continue actions on your browser. You can just say OK, or you can just say cancel. So it's gonna just remove the alert from your page. Then the third type of alert, which is the most tricky one to handle in the Cypress, the prompt alert. So prompt alert is pretty much similar to confirmation alert, but the difference is basically you can send an input inside this alert. So imagine that some website has some kind of security that uh, asking you to provide some password by this alert to move on and do some action on that web page. So you can come across with this alert in the future. But as I said, on the prompt alert, as it's coming from its name, you have to prompt something. I mean, you don't have to do it, but it's asking you to provide a prompt. You can again just click cancel, or you can again just click OK, or you can just pass some prompt inside of it. So let's see how we are handling these alerts. So we also explained in the alerts in here, warning alert, confirmation alert, and the prompt alert. So let's see how we can handle them. So handling the alerts. With Cypress, handling alerts is very easy, especially this window and the confirmation alert. Because it automatically accepts the alert, but you can still assert the text content. So what I mean by that at first, let's just see that. So let's just go to our framework and let's create a new test block. Let's call it alerts. So let's say I'm going to visit this alerts page. Let's also make sure that the page name is correct. So from here, I want to click this warning alert. So what I need to do, I will locate the ID of this web element. Then from here, I'm going to click on this one. So right now, you will see that without handling this alert, it is going to click OK for me implicitly. I don't need to do anything. You are not going to see error at all, to be honest. So let's see how it looks like. I will just save it and run the test. You see, it's already telling us you accepted warning by clicking OK. It's going to do the same for the confirmation alert too. Let's say I'm going to click on the confirmation alert. Most probably our ID is going to change with the confirmation. Yep, you confirmed the alert by clicking OK. And it's most probably going to be the same for the prompt alert. Yep, it's asking us to click something. Most probably this one is preventing this one. I will just going to close this one. As I say, prompt alerts are a little bit different than what we know. Yeah, we need to handle the prompt alert in a different way. But as I say, for the warning and the confirmation alert, if you don't need to do anything else, just clicking OK, you don't need to do anything extra. Just clicking it and just continue doing your actions as usual will be enough for you. Now let's see how we can handle this warning alert and the confirmation alert. So to interact with the alerts, we are using a cy.on method. So this cy.on function in the Cypress is it's an event listener. So basically, it is directly interacting with the window event. So it allows us to attach the callback function to specific Cypress events, which will be executed when those events occur during the tests. So for example, when testing a web page that trigger a native browser alert, you cannot directly interact with those alerts using Cypress commands because Cypress commands are not interacting with the browser actions. So you can use cy.on to listen for and handle these alerts, because this cy.on, as you can see, by its getting window string function, it's interacting with the window events as a listener. So if we break down, so we will provide the event name. So the first argument on cy.on is a string that specifies the name of the event that we want to listen. So in our case, the event that we want to listen is the OK. So as it says in here, the common events are window alert, window confirm, and window prompt. And we will provide the callback function. And the reason that we are providing this callback function is that we are getting the text of that event. So let's see how it works. So for the confirmation alert, since there is only one option and it's already handled by the Cypress, okay? For example, when I just click on this one, there is one option only, right? Which is the OK. And Cypress already clicks on OK for me. But how can I get this text? So this is a window event, okay? Because this event is coming from the browser directly, not from the HTML, coming from the window. So we have to listen and interact with this event. And Cypress, as I say, already interacting for us by clicking the OK. But let's say we want to get this text. So what you can do? So basically, it's pretty much easy. It's pretty much similar to interacting with the byte then. So what we can do is we will call this cy.on. Then from here, we will say window.alert. As you can see, by the way, it's coming right where we called. You see? Alert confirm, alert and confirm. So window alert is what we need. Then from here, what we will do is basically we are going to provide the callback. Then from here, we will just get this text, right? So if I just do cy.log str, it's going to return the text of that what we have. Oh, we just don't need this for this data right now. Let's just remove this. By the way, I will just comment out this test because it takes time. Okay, we just didn't click the OK, but because we didn't click the alerts yet. Okay, we are getting an exception in here. We just try something. Alright, let's see what's going on. Okay, this is working as expected. Okay, I think it's not allowing us to get the text of this alert, but what if we do let's see the alert first, how that it looks like. Yeah, I think it's not allowing us to get the text of that alert directly. I don't know why. But we can just, as you can see, we are getting the text of it by asserting it. But it is not allowing us to get the direct text of this error. We should, let me just try this one too to make sure. Console.log from the console. Okay, let's see the console. Yeah, it's allowing us to get this text from the console. I don't know why it's not allowing us to do it by the cy.log. You can see you are on Tech Global Training application. I will try again from the cy.log. Yeah, we are getting an exception on here. Oh, which will like break the promise there by calling the JavaScript objects is preventing us to interact with that web element. Okay, so this is how we handle the window alert, and let's see how we can handle this, the confirmation alert, which can return the OK or cancel. So the command is going to be pretty much same, and this time we are going to click on this confirmation alert. Let's just get from here. Again, we are going to call the cy.on. It will be window dot, not dot, sorry. I don't know why it's not suggesting us, but let's see. Window dot confirm. And from here, we will provide a callback again. Then from here, let's say we want to click cancel. I mean, as we know, again, it's always going to click OK, right? So how we can prevent this to click cancel? First, let's just validate the text. So I'm going to do the same thing again, but of course our text is going to be different this time. Let's see what is our text looks like on the confirmation alert. Okay, instead it's would you like to stay on Tech Global application. First, let's just validate this text. App would you like to stay on the Tech Global application. It's working as it's expected. But let's say I want to click a cancel button. So how can I do it? It's pretty easy. All you need to do is just return false, because this event is always tend to return true by clicking the OK. So by just providing the opposite action, it's going to click cancel this time. You see, you rejected the alert by clicking cancel. If you see that, if I just comment out this line, it's going to click OK. You will see that you confirmed the alert by clicking OK, but whenever I do false, it will tell me you rejected the alert by clicking cancel. So this is how we can handle this warning and the confirmation alert in Cypress. So as I told you before, the prompt alert is kinda a little bit different than the warning and the confirmation alert. So let's see how it looks like. So let's create a different test block, because in the test block it's gonna fail because we need to always handle these events in a different window of sessions. So I will just call confirmation, not confirmation, I'm sorry, prompt alert. So I will again going to direct this web page, but this time I'm going to click on the prompt alert. So let's go to presentation and let's see how we handle prompt alert. So Cypress has built-in support for handling alert and the confirmation dialog by auto-accepting them. It's part of the Cypress design to ensure tests are deterministic and as possible. So therefore, since the dialogs don't typically provide much value to testing and can interrupt the flow of the test, Cypress automatically handles them. And how it handles them? By just automatically clicking OK. So however, the prompt dialog is a bit different from alert and the confirm. So if you guys see that, remember that we just from the JavaScript, by just providing this prompt, right, we're just creating a prompt error on the JavaScript by providing this command. For example, let's say this is my alert. You see, I just created the alert right now with the JavaScript command, which is the alert, like the prompt alert, right? I can just click whatever I want, but it's not related to page. This is just a random thing. So, however, the prompt dialog is a bit different from alert and a confirm. A prompt accepts input from the user. So, Cypress out of the box doesn't know what value should be provided. So, it can't auto accept a prompt dialog in the same way it can with the other two. As you remember that when there is a prompt alert, it's not handling, it's not clicking OK. So for example, I still save just this test and run it. You see it's just waiting because it expects an input from us. It won't continue without giving us prompt. Why I say that? Because in the future you might test and come across with this kind of web application that asking you something on the prompt alert, and maybe you need to provide some kind of information inside of that. So that's why Cypress is not blocking you to give that information. It's not telling you just click OK. It's telling us, hey, I will not click OK for this one because you might need to enter some information. So enter your information, then you can click OK or cancel. It's up to you. So in short, cy.on, that what we have, is good for listening and asserting on certain events, including the simple appearance of alert or confirm dialogues. But it can't be used with prompt dialogues. So what we will do with prompt dialogues, let's see that. So when we are dealing with the prompt dialogues, we will need to come up with a different approach. So we will be using this time cy.window instead of cy.on. So by cy.window, we are going to interacting with the window events directly, not by the on. We will directly do it by the window, because the thing is, when we are talking about this alerts, right? Like for example, I said prompt, right? Actually, this prompt alert is coming from this window. It's coming from here. So right now, Cypress is also giving us an option to interact with this window. So how we will do that? Basically, we will just do it by calling cy.window. So you don't need to provide anything inside the cy.window, because cy.window automatically going to listen this event that you want to interact. And let's say in this event, I want to get, for example, the text again from this event. So from this text, what we need to do? So there is a function in the Cypress. Let's see that quickly. Let's just also read this one before. So there is a so this is where cy.window comes into play. So using cy.window, you can gain direct access to window object of the page being tested. With this access, you can then use JavaScript to stop or override native functions like window.prompt. So in short, we will come to that. cy.window provides a more in-depth capability, letting you interact with and override the properties and methods on the window object, which is especially useful for controlling the behavior of the prompt dialogues. When you want to test a piece of code that triggers a prompt alert, you need to use cy.stop to replace the default prompt behavior with one that automatically provides a predetermined answer. So let's see what is this cy.stop. So as you can see, we are using a cy.stop in here, okay? So let's see what is this cy.stop. So this stop is basically a method provided by the Cypress that is allowing us to replace any function in the JavaScript with the stop version. So by this stop, providing this stop, we can reprogram to existing method that belongs to the JavaScript. So in our case, we are calling this from window, which is the object in here, right? Then from this, which is the actual like prompt, which is our like method in here from the window object, then we are calling this prompt, and we are just going to replace the behavior of this function. So this stub can be programmed to behave in a certain way or to simply monitor the original function's calls without executing its original behavior. So by stubbing, by the way, you can just hear this term a lot, like stubbing. Prompt, you can effectively tell Cypress when the code triggers a prompt, instead of actually showing it and waiting for user input, just return this specific value as if user typed in. So what we mean by that? So this is going to allow our test to continue running smoothly without manual intervention. Because as you can see, since Cypress was waiting in here, when we clicked on the prompt alert, it was waiting for the interaction. So when we create this stop using cy.stop, we are basically replacing a function with a fake version that you can control. So we are just basically getting that prompt function, okay, and we are just faking that function. We are just blocking its interaction and we are just replacing with the behavior we want. So by default, this fake version doesn't do anything. It's just a placeholder. If you want this fake version to behave in a specific way when it's called, then we use the calls fake. We will see this calls fake too if we need to, but this is just too much advanced that we don't need to use the calls fake. This calls fake gonna be the different callback that we need to use, but I don't think we need it for now. But let's see what we can do with this stop. So right now we called this the str which is going to allow us to get the text, but it doesn't mean that we need to do something. Actually, let's just say we're not going to get the text in here, okay? Let's say we don't care about it. So we can just call the window, right? As a callback, not the str, because we don't want to get the text. So from here we can call our cy.step. Then all we can do is basically cy.step, and from this function, which object we want to provide, then what method of its object that we want to manipulate, and which in our case is the prompt, right? Because prompt is the method called by the JavaScript. So we want to manipulate this one. So right now from here you can just say return null. So when you do this, by the way, not return, it will be returns. So when you do this, it's going to simulate the clicking the cancel on the page. Let's see how it looks like. Okay, I think we are missing something. Do we have any syntax error in here? By the way, I'm just going to cancel this one too. Not lose the time. Let's say cancel. We're clicking the prompt alert in here, right? Let's just take this one in here. Yep, we are clicking on this prompt alert and we are just clicking the cancel. So let's say we want to this time click OK. By the way, since this is a callback, right, we need to make sure that this event just executes right after this one. So that's why just providing this, because clicking here will not work. As you can see, it will just wait and it's going to fail in here. Oh no, it's actually something else, the problem. Let me just command out this one too to execute faster. You see, it's just clicking, but it's not even calling the function. So that's why we have to provide this just right after our callback function. Say cancel. It's working as expected. So let's say this time I want to click OK. How can I click OK? It's pretty much straightforward. So if you want to click OK, all you need to do is just give an empty string. Okay, why is it behaving this way this time? It shouldn't be this one. No, it shouldn't be this one. Sometimes like test runner can be flaky. Let me just execute it and reinstantiate it again. Yep, this time it worked fine. As I say, sometimes test runner can be flaky. It can just redo the action again and again. If you see that, reset your test runner. I will save and rerun it again to show you. It's working as expected. As I say, if you provide the null, it's going to click cancel. If I just provide empty string, it's going to click on OK. So now we have seen that how to click OK, or how to send a prompt and click OK, or without sending a prompt, clicking the cancel. So let's see how we can get the behavior of this prompt, because right now we were just manipulating this prompt, right? We were not just clicking OK, we were also manipulating this behavior by clicking OK or clicking cancel. But we were not getting a specific behavior from that one. So how we can do that? So this is where calls fake that we just mentioned before comes in handy. So if you go back, you will see when you create a stop using ty.stop, we are essentially replacing a function with a fake version that we can control. So by default, this fake version doesn't do anything. It's just a placeholder there. But if you want to fake version to behave in a specific way, which in our case getting the text. What I mean by the getting the text, by the way, for example, so we just learned that how to click OK on the prompt, how to click cancel, or how to send something on this prompt, but we are not getting the specific thing from this behavior. So this calls back where it comes in handy. So this calls fake method allows us to provide a function that will execute it whenever the stopped function is called. So this is very useful for simulating a specific behaviors or the outputs. So let's see how we can use this. So I'm just going to comment out this one. So first what we do, we get the window object, right? We call this callback. Then we call cy.stop. Then we are providing our object in here, then which method of the window object we want to manipulate. So this time we are not going to return directly OK or cancel, because we want to get the text. We want to get the behavior of this method. So this is where we will use this calls fake. So I'm just going to say message. So right now I'm getting this behavior of this method, which is message in our case. So now I can do the explicit assertion. By the way, at the same time you are seeing some use cases for the explicit assertion, right? So as you see, like we have to use the explicit assertion in here, because right now the thing that we are interacting is a JavaScript object, it's not a Cypress object. So that's why we have to deal with the explicit assertions in here, because we cannot do with the should. So all I'm gonna say, expect message to equal, what is our text? Let's see, what would you like to say to tech global? To equal to this one. So by just saying null, it's gonna get this message and it's click on cancel. Yep, we are clicked to cancel and we get text. What would you like to say to tech global? But instead, if you want to still click OK, all you can do is just giving it empty string. Then this will click OK and get the text. So in Cypress, this is how we handle this multiple different type of alerts. As I say, especially the prompt one is kind of tricky, but it's just very easy to interact with that. So let's see what we have left. Advanced mouse actions. So what we mean by this advanced mouse actions? So Cypress is primarily, as it says in here, designed for end-to-end testing, which focuses on simulating a real user actions. Validate the functionality of web application. So it's just simulating it, okay? So while it's providing way to trigger events like mouse over using trigger method, there are some nuances and challenges associated with such events in Cypress. So basically, these methods are not coming from the Cypress. These methods are coming from the library, and this library is called, which we don't have in here, but if you go to npm, we can just call it, and let's just write Cypress real events. So all you need to do is just get this npm package. So this is going to allow you to simulate, not simulate, but do the real user actions just like you are doing inside the browser. And this provides you multiple different methods with that. So sometimes, for example, hover over is like really tricky in Cypress. So what I mean by that, for example, let's just get this Cypress real events. It might not work for the existing version of the Cypress, but let's see. Oh, I think it should work because we have 13.1. So I just executed my test runner, and I'm going to install this Cypress real events, which we are getting a failure. Oh, it says we have to downgrade our version, I guess. Alright. It's interesting. We are on Cypress framework. It should allow us to do that, but it's acting a little bit weird. It says it's working up to 12, I guess. I think they should be able to resolve this issue. So for this one, we need to downgrade our Cypress version. Most probably they're gonna release a new version, so we will be using the new version when they release, but looks like there's a problem right now because Cypress just released a 13, and it seems like this is working up to 12 version. And most probably if I just downgrade my Cypress version, it will be work properly. But for now, we can just wait. But from the presentation, you can see that, for example, as I say, hovering over is an issue on the Cypress. What I mean by that, let's say, if you see this opens with hover over. But if you guys try to hover over this, it's gonna cause an issue. But with these events, it works properly. So we will cover these topics in more advanced, and let's see what are the other advanced topics in the Cypress that what we can do, and the different stuffs. So file download. So file download is pretty much straightforward, and let me just create another test block for the site upload. I'm sorry, file download. So if you guys remember from our Cypress introduction video, we were talking about the folder types, right? We were talking about folder structures. We talked about the end-to-end, we talked about the fixtures. Well, it's actually here already. I will just remove this one. This should not be here, but that's fine. So we have end-to-end, we have fixtures, we have support, and we talk about the assets folder, right? And what we said is the assets folder. These are like downloads, videos, screenshots folder. These are created implicitly when we use anything in our framework that is related to these folders. For example, downloading. So let's see how it works. So what I'm going to do is basically I will do, just going to this page, but of course not this page, but this time we are going to file upload and download page. Let's go front end page and file upload and download, which is here. Then we will click on this one and let's see, we have the file upload and download in here. Let's get our download link. So once we click, we expect our browser to download this file that we inserted in our framework. So I will just say cy.get, then file download. Then I'm gonna click on it. So right now, let's see what it's going to download in our framework. I just saved it, and I will just say npx Cypress open. I'm also gonna command out this one. There's an easier way, by the way, other than commanding out. We will see this in the future, but right now I'm just commanding out. So let's see what happens. It clicked, and as you can see, it's download a file called sample text.txt. You know what you will see? You'll see this downloads folder. You guys remember that we removed this folder actually, but it came back. Why? Because this is how assets folders types, like folders, are working. They are implicitly appears in the place where you set on the option on the cypress.config.js. By default, it's in our inside our Cypress folder. That's why it's creating there. So it's implicitly creating a folder in here. So how we can validate if this folder is downloaded? So first of all, we need to know that what is the name of this downloaded folder. So in our case, we know that we are downloading this sample text.txt. So what you can do is basically you can create const file name is equal to sample text.txt. Well, this is our folder name, right? So there's a Cypress method. This method is basically validating that this file is reading from the path that we provided. So all we're gonna do is just provide the path. So I will just say cypress.read file. Then I'm gonna provide my path. Cypress, you know what? You can just do this one too. Let's click on download. Copy relative path. And you can just put this one. And what we expect to be downloaded inside this folder. So I can just use string interpolation in here. Then I'm just gonna put slash, and I will say $sign, then my file name. So basically this will fail the test if the file doesn't exist, because this is also an assertion. So you will get an action if it doesn't read this file name from the framework. So let's try and let's see how it looks like. As you can see, it's validated. Our file is in here. What if we provide the wrong name? Let's see the failure. You see? It's already already the assertion is embedded inside this method. So at the same time, it's not reading, it's also doing an assertion. Whenever we give the file name wrong, it says assertions error. Whenever I fix it, my assertion will pass, which is read file. This is how easy the file download in Cypress. So from here, let's see how file upload. File upload is pretty much straightforward. So we will use the same page again. I'm not gonna create another test block, or let's just create it. I will just say it's file upload this time. And let's see what is the name of that. Where we upload it. We're uploading on the file upload. We don't need this part. So for this to be able to upload, we have to provide what we want to upload. So you have to have something to upload a file. So if you see that, we have to provide the path of our file, okay? That's where we want to download, where we want to upload, I'm sorry. So there's three types that we can use. For example, we can select a single file, we can select multiple files, or we can even, sometimes there's a no upload button, we can even drag and drop. This even works. This just acts like a simulates a drag and drop. I mean, since we don't have a drag and drop, we cannot be able to simulate that, and we don't have the multiple files. But when you're gonna upload the multiple files, you will provide it as an array. If you see the square brackets in here, you will provide them as an array. But right now we're gonna provide a single file. So what I'm going to do is basically, I'm just going to take this path. Actually, let's just get this one directly in here. And instead, I will just get this path. And of course, we are going to use this click. Instead, we will be using our select file. So I will say select file. Then I will provide my file path. Remove these quotations. And let's see if it's working. Yeah, right now the test run is being flaky, you see. It's just keep repeating itself. So in this case we have to close the test runner. Also I will just going to command out this one too. I'm just gonna execute the test runner. Save it. Let's start testing again. Go inside advanced topics. As you can see, it's there. If you want to make sure it's uploaded, we can just click on this upload button, because that's how it's gonna work. Let's see what's the name of our upload button. This file submit. So I will just say cy.get .click. It's just renaming the test again. You see, after it's uploading, it's just renaming the page, which is some kind of weird action. So what I will do, I will just do cy.wait. That's weird. But it's fine, like when we click, we see that it's actually uploaded. You see, we are getting the green text. The problem is just after it uploads, it just refreshes the page, which is really interesting. Try to see, am I gonna get the failure or get the refresh after I click it? Yeah, whenever we click on this file submit button, it's refreshing the page, you see? I don't know why. But that's fine. Most probably there is a problem with our application. It could be, I'm not really sure. But manually it's working as is expected. So this is how easy also the file upload in Cypress. So thank you very much for your time. This was all the advanced topics and some challenge that we will face using Cypress. So see you in the next class.